Stay frosty and head over to EasyMut.com for the cheapest MUT coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 1 million coins for around 40 bucks. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans. Woohoo! Hell Week continues. It's like a massacre out there, man. The NFL, so many teams trying to get under the cap, trying to create cap space, releasing a plethora of quality players into the universe, into the free agent pool. And today, the Chiefs added 2 quality players to that pool in left tackle Eric Fisher and offensive, or I should say right tackle Mitchell Schwartz. I think he can play left side as well. How crazy is that? We all saw this coming, right? Like the moment that Patrick Mahomes signed a $500 million contract, we're like, sacrifices are going to have to be made. And little did you know it's going to cost him pretty much his entire offensive line. You know what? What does this put him at right now? Left tackle's gone. Right tackle's gone. I think Austin Blythe is gone. I don't remember who they had as far as guard. What a ballsy move by the Kansas City Chiefs, right? We just saw what happened in the Super Bowl when you don't have these 2 players on the field. And sure, you know, they were both maybe, I wouldn't even say injury prone. Maybe it was unlucky that they didn't play in the Super Bowl. But to straight up cut these guys, it just seems like they're trying to wiggle through some financial struggle out there in Kansas City. But I'm trying to make here is, do the Chargers go after maybe one of these guys? We're also going to be poking around Spot Rack here. I've got all the recently cut players. We're going to go through, I would say, a lot of the positions just to see if there's anybody that the Chargers should be targeting. But keep in mind, you know, the Chargers cap situation. After maybe we cut Trey Turner, we should be looking around like 40-something plus million dollars. So the Chargers have some money to work with. But I do think it's extra important this season to allocate that money appropriately, because we've got a lot of holes to fill. We got a lot of roster spots that need attention, and maybe some of these guys are outside of our price range. What do the Chargers want to do as far as filling in gaps in free agency versus the draft? We're going to be going over a lot of stuff today, as well as kind of giving you guys an update on the Orlando Brown situation. We'll do that here in just a second, just to kind of see what the Chargers options are at offensive line. So before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. Recently cut players that the Chargers could consider. And you know what? We're together going to be going over on Spot Rack here, just kind of like poking around, seeing what we like, because I want you guys to kind of have like your eyes on like a good amount of players, like just going through these lists, so you can be like, oh, Director didn't talk about that guy. I'm gonna post a comment and see, you know, what he thinks about that. But first off, I do want to talk a little bit about Orlando Brown. As far as I know, 6 teams are showing interest at this point. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs are one of them at this point, losing both of their, you know, franchise linemen. The Chargers being the mix for Orlando Brown, I would still expect them to be talking. But the more I look into Orlando Brown, there have been some concerns that are brought up as far as cap. In this article, they're talking about him wanting to be extended immediately, and that's part of the trade negotiation for him. Then other Chargers fans are a little bit worried about his scheme fit. Of course, a power run kind of guy. The Chargers, as far as their left tackle like fit, maybe Orlando Brown isn't the best fit per se, but you really couldn't convince me that the Chargers would be worse with Orlando Brown. The Chargers would certainly be a lot better with Orlando Brown. So I'm still on the train of get Orlando Brown to the Chargers if at all possible. But, you know, the more I'm looking into it, the more I'm looking at the draft, the way things may be panning out, the Chargers may actually be in a better position just by straight up drafting their tackle of the future. So first off, these 2 fellas right here, Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz. Now, we all know that these guys have been playing at a dominant level for a while. I think Eric Fisher's like a 2-time Pro Bowler. Then Mitchell Schwartz, since he was with the Browns, has been absolutely incredible. We're going to take a look at these guys' age and statistics here in a minute. Actually, let's go through the roster cuts right now. So here's the Spot Rack right here. I actually placed a list or a filter here to show you guys all of the players cut between the beginning of the year and today, which is March 11th. And we're just going to kind of go by position and kind of highlight the guys that I think the Chargers could consider. Mainly linemen, I'm going to say offensive and defensive linemen that I think the Chargers should consider. And we can kind of look and see if they have any sort of value as far as how much they would be, how much they would cost to sign and stuff like that. So let's start here at defensive end. And is there a way to like... Okay, it does update it right away. So J.J. Watt, who's already been signed. Carlos Dunlap, I might consider it. I'm doing this live with you guys. It's a very raw take video today, just to kind of get my genuine reaction. Carlos Dunlap would be okay. I would say a nice scheme fit if we're moving into 3-4. But again, he's so old, 32, almost 33 years old. It's probably a pass for me. Let's not click on everybody, director. The names are there. You guys can see him. Adrian Claiborne's also a little interesting. To say injury, maybe that's a sign of things. 33 years old almost too. So I'd say a lot of these defensive end guys are probably a pass. Cornerback, AJ Bouye. That's a pass for me. Malcolm Butler was recently cut by the Titans. How old is he? 31, almost 32. That's almost an automatic pass in my book. You know, we all know him and his famous play with the Patriots back in the day. Desmond Trufant's a pass. EJ Gaines' a pass. I think I had somebody I wrote down, actually. I have a little list here on the side of people that aren't listed on this site. Justin Coleman, I think, is getting released, so he's not on this list yet. And then Janoris Jenkins is also on this list. Matter of fact, did I have something up on PFF for him? Yes, I did. What do you guys think about Janoris Jenkins? You know, he's had a pretty decent career. You know, maybe, you know, his best year was in 2016. We'll never see anything like that again. But I don't know. Just something to mull over. Just something to mull over, Chargers fans. Let's move on to wide receiver. Now, again, there's a couple of new guys on this list. Juju Smith-Schuster's been really heavily hinting that he's not coming back to the Steelers. Let me know what you guys think about Juju. John Brown, though, this one's interesting, okay? The Chargers have a quarterback very similar to the quarterback he's been playing with. Of course, the comparison to Josh Allen and Justin Herbert's very common. What do you guys think about John Brown? 30 years old, almost 31. I mean, he'd be cheap. What, their cap hit in 2021 of about $2 million? Is that really accurate? Let's see here. 2019, 2021. 3 years signing bonus. Okay. So definitely not $2 million. I don't know, man. That one's interesting because he's fast. He'd definitely be a scheme fit in some way, but I think that's still a pass for me. Are we just going to pass on all these players? Emmanuel Sanders is a pass. Golden Tate's a pass. Deshaun Jackson, I've heard Chargers fans talk about him a little bit. He'd be interesting because he is a speedster, but again, older. A lot of older players on here. The only player I'm remotely interested in, you know, as far as offseason, as far as like the free agency, maybe John Ross again. I've been talking a lot about him, and even Juju Smith-Schuster, but that really depends on what we do with Mike Williams. I don't know. I'd rather keep Mike Williams. Honestly, guys, how much do you think Mike Williams is going to cost, right? I don't know. Like, definitely not as much as his franchise tag or his 50-year option. It's tough. The wide receiver position is tough. I think the Chargers are pretty set if we decide to keep Mike Williams. If we decide to move on from Mike Williams, then I'm kind of looking at free agency and stuff like that. Also, Tyrell Williams, guys have been asking me about him. He did sign with the Lions not too long ago. Here's where things get spicy. Recently cut Kevin Zeitler, Gabe Jackson. Rich Incognito's a pass. Way too old. Okay, let's take a look at these two guys. Kevin Zeitler. I know he was a Giant. Some people were saying stay away from him. He is like 32 years old. I'd feel okay about him on a cheap deal. I looked up his PFF stats and stuff. He's actually still pretty good. Maybe he's starting to show some signs of decline. That's where I'm like, the Chargers did that last year. We got Brian Bulaga, Trey Turner, and they fell off a cliff. How do I feel about Kevin Zeitler? Maybe a little more optimistic, but again, he's older. What about Gabe Jackson? 29 years old, almost 30. That's pretty good, right? As far as age for offensive linemen, I don't mind that. How much would he cost? Average salary of $11 million. Pretty pricey. You know, at this point, as far as positions and the value they have on that offensive line, I'm going to talk about this a lot. Guard is important if you can get one of the best guards in the league, in my opinion. You know, I think guard is important, you know, straight up. But in comparison to, let's say, center and tackle, I don't know. I talked a lot about moving money away from the guard position and trying to put it in positions that are more important this offseason. A guy like Gabe Jackson's definitely intriguing, but would I rather have a Gabe Jackson or Corey Linsley? Definitely a Corey Linsley. I think that center position's super important. I still stand firmly behind my my wishes for the Chargers to sign Corey Linsley above any other free agent right now. I think Corey Linsley is the #1 priority. And so if we take the money that we could have signed Corey Linsley with and we gave it to Gabe Jackson, I don't like that. I would rather put it into the center position as of right now. Let's keep moving on down here. Defensive tackle. This one's interesting. We haven't talked much about Jarrell Casey. Quan Short's interesting. I don't know if he's much of a scheme fit. I think that's about it. Jarrell Casey. Now, Jarrell Casey, a bit older, but I do think he's got a lot left in the tank. Of course, he had an injury, I think, this last season. But you're talking about the ultimate scheme fit as far as 3-4. I think he played defensive tackle and defensive end in his career. Now, of course, cut by the Broncos. I don't know how much of the money that they're going to be eating up in there. But if the Chargers can get him on the cheap, which I have to assume his contract's not going to be too crazy, I guess I would be okay with it. But I really like what Linval Joseph did for the Chargers. So it would be a very specific circumstance where I'm like comfortable Jarrell Casey coming to the Chargers. If he comes to play defensive end, then maybe we're talking, something a little more potential. But I don't know at this point. You guys let me know. That's the whole point of this video. You guys just kind of follow along with me. Let me know what you think about some of these certain players. Quan Short, I like the talent. Too old. Too old. Let's move on. Defensive tackle. So we kind of went through defensive end, defensive tackle. The only guy I'm remotely interested in at this point is probably going to be Jarrell Casey. But again, it would be very specific circumstances. What about inside linebacker? You guys have been asking me a lot about Kyle Van Noy. I think a lot of people would be interested in him. Great against the run. Pass rusher as well. Play him on the outside too. He's interesting. Oh, yeah, he's only 29 years old. I thought Kyle Van Noy was like 30-something. I mean, close to 30. Just under 30. That one's tough for me. I would say if the Chargers can't land anybody else, I still think Kyle Van Noy is a strong option. I would still like to get younger if at all possible. But there are better names out there. But I wouldn't be upset about Kyle Van Noy. He shouldn't be too expensive either. What was his last contract looking like? 20 to 23. Okay, so they just cut him after signing him. That's not cool. Average salary of 12.7. It'd have to be cheaper than that. He knows it. Quan Alexander too. People have been asking me about. He's, I guess, more of like a hybrid coverage / run stopper, and I don't think he did very well with the Saints. Even though he's not too old, I don't see a lot of production out of him, so that's an easy pass for me. David Mayo's super old. Okay, let's move on to left tackle. We got a couple names here. Eric Fisher, Riley Reiff. Okay, Riley Reiff actually gets me kind of excited. Eric Fisher's cool, but he does have that injury from last season. It really depends on like how much you're willing to bet that he comes back with fewer injury concerns, right? What do they have? Okay, they have a market value on him for here. How much are they saying? $18.5 million. Ooh, I don't know about that one, boys. Again, this is Spot Rack, so take everything with a grain of salt. I would actually expect this to be a little lower. I was thinking Eric Fisher, given his age, injury history, maybe closer to like 14. Does that feel good to you guys? Like 14 million? Let's say this number wasn't here. It's 14 million. How do you guys feel about Eric Fisher? I still don't know. I really still don't know. The injury does worry me a little bit. He's been great with Patrick Mahomes, which is a sign in the right direction that I would want to take him. Chargers have a guy who's similar to Mahomes in some ways, especially with how he moves outside the pocket. I guess I'd be okay with it, but I'm surprised. I'm surprised in myself for not being like, oh, let's go grab Eric Fisher. I just think it's a lot of money. And where the Chargers are positioned in the draft, I think I'd feel better with grabbing a left tackle in the draft and still sticking with Corey Linsley. I think that's where I stand. I really do. I think I'm starting to dig my heels in that opinion. Riley Reiff is interesting. He doesn't have a market value here. How much was he getting paid before? 11.7. He's not going to be worth that. This would be a Hail Mary kind of to me too. I like Riley. Chargers fans been talking about Riley Reiff for a minute, right? We've been talking about trading for him, signing him from the Vikings. He is 32. He would be an upgrade for sure. But I'm really starting to, again, dig my heels in the thought of the Chargers grabbing that tackle in the draft. Whether it be at 13, maybe the Chargers pass on tackle at 13. We decide to go Waddle or Kyle Pitts. Even in the second round, like a Dylan Raduns, I'd be pretty happy with that, maybe over Riley Reiff. That's just where I'm at right now. I think the Chargers at this point, just for me, for the director, I'm starting to think that tackle needs to come through the draft, right? The available options are pretty good, pretty nice, but I like the long-term potential of tackle out of the draft, especially when it comes to price and talent at this point for me. Let's take a look at Maybe quarterback. They've been talking about Alex Smith being the backup, which would be kind of cool. What do you guys think about Easton Stick? I'm still an Easton Stick believer. He hasn't had a lot of reps, but I'm worried that the Chargers pumping money into the quarterback, the backup quarterback position. How much... Okay, think about it this way, okay? How much do you like Alex Smith without a center? Okay, let's say how much you like Alex Smith with Dan Feeney at center versus how much you like Easton Stick with Corey Linsley at center, right? I think that's the kind of difference in money that we're talking about. If we sign Alex Smith, who I love as a quarterback, right? Kind of crappy that he got cut right after winning Comeback Player of the Year. Kind of crappy. But I feel better about Easton Stick with more protection than I do about Alex Smith with less protection. If that makes sense. If the money goes towards an offensive lineman, then I feel better about Easton Stick. If we get Alex Smith and we have to forego some of those upgrades, then I don't feel as good. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Free safety. LaMarcus Joyner recently cut. That's interesting. I have a couple of buddies that are Raiders fans, and when they heard that LaMarcus Joyner was cut, they were like, good. So that's a red flag. But the Chargers do have a need at free safety. I think Joyner's been okay. Does he have a market value on him? How much would he cost the Chargers? No market value. What was his most recent contract? 10 on average. So expensive, not too expensive, but 30 years old. Again, that's a pass. I think we're learning here together, guys, that maybe free agency, we have to be super choosy, right? Like Mitchell Schwartz. I'm not going to lie. I love Mitchell Schwartz. I'm a huge fan of his game. I've loved him since the Browns, right? Was that not too long? Yeah, 2012, 2015. He's been fantastic. 31, almost 32 for a lineman. Not too old. How much would he cost? I don't know. Average salary of $8 million. Which is honestly not too bad. He's got these guarantees and signing bonuses. I'll keep that in mind. I don't know. I think he could play a left tackle as well, but I'm really starting to wrap my mind around how the Chargers tackle the draft. And the more I think about it, the more I see the Chargers positioned in several rounds, not just the first round, but like the second and third rounds to grab quality offensive linemen. So to pay up for Mitchell Schwartz, the only position that I feel comfortable in as of right now spending up on is probably center, because of how much more a center can offer you with experience. Not to mention that Corey Linsley's like on the uptick right now. He's trending in the right direction after being the best center in football last season. But a center's experience, especially in a high tempo offense with Aaron Rodgers, that kind of experience, communication, you're not going to get that out of a rookie. So that's kind of where I'm trending right now, is that maybe other positions outside of center, maybe if you grab a guard on the cheap, a tackle, you would really have to convince me like it's something that you guys have been eyeing on and you've been very confident in, like a Trent Williams or something. Like, he's old, but this is the guy for Justin Herbert. You'd really have to convince me in that to pass on a talent in the draft to go after him instead. Let's move on. Center, we already know Corey Linsley is my guy. They haven't listed him here because he hasn't officially been cut, I don't think. So just keep that in mind. Has he not? Interesting. Running back, Duke Johnson, Mark Ingram, not interested. Tight end, this is something we've been talking about a lot. Ricky Seals-Jones. He was part of that Arizona offense that was terrible, right? He's only 25, almost 26. I'd give him a shot. You know, I mean, if we didn't have Donald Parham, I would definitely give him a shot as a tight end too. So maybe just don't need him. Maybe he could be a low end tight end one, but this is tough, man. This is really tough. Kyle Rudolph, I'm not too interested in. Let's move on. Don't need punter. Strong safety. Kenneth Vaccaro was just let go not too long ago. 30 years old. Not interested. I'm really learning a lot about myself in this video. Linebacker. Nope, nobody. I mean, these aren't all the free agents, by the way, guys. Just keep in mind, like, these are the guys that have been recently cut. I don't know. Was this video much ado about nothing? Or was this video more about finding ourselves a little bit? Chargers fans, all NFL fans of their teams, every time somebody is released or there's a trade rumor, that fan base is always like, let's get him on our team. But when you take a step back and you really look at the circumstances behind our cap space and our potential through the draft and our needs, I think you can afford to get choosy, right? Do the Chargers really want to spend up on guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Coleman, Janoris Jenkins, Mitchell Schwartz, Eric Fisher, when we have so many holes that we have to address? At this point, I'm really starting to feel like Corey Linsley's the one guy I really want. If they want to go after depth around him, I feel okay about that. If we make a trade, let's say again in the scenario that we lose Hunter Henry, we go pick up a David Njoku, I totally get that. I'm cool with that. But I think a lot of this offseason is going to fall on how we do in the draft. It's kind of where I'm feeling right now. Well, guys, longer video again today. I'm just really rambling in this one, guys. I'm more interested in talking to you guys. What do you think? What do you think about the recently cut players? I was expecting to see more players, honestly, that I wanted the Chargers to sign. Only saw a couple. Off the table, too, we didn't even talk about Brandon Sheriff, Taylor Moton, Cam Robinson. They have all been franchise tagged. The only one I wanted there was Brandon Sheriff. Taylor Moton would be cool, too, but he was a right tackle. Already have that position filled. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Any guys that I missed on here that you want to see? Any guys that I passed on that you would want? Any guys that I want that you would pass on? Let me know. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.